You know what happens when it gets late? I forget about myself and the things that I should be talking about, what y'all came to expect on this here program. But that's what it's all about, shaking it up, creating, or dying. And today is not one of those days where I'm ready to die. I'm just getting over some ills. That's right, been held up, been feeling locked up inside with my sickness. And I might still sound a little off. Maybe that's why I'm dropping these rhymes that don't really even rhyme. That's right. But it is what it is, and I'm rolling with it. This here's a hot mic, and we're just gonna let things fly. Editing be damned. That's right, I said it. Okay? So, coming at you hard with this episode. This is your boy, Ike, the man with the mic, trying to drop some rhymes when it's too late. Oh man, this is rough. But seriously, folks, I've got things be banging around up in my mind. They'd be driving me crazy. I don't know if y'all have heard about this AI getting all up in our business. You know, artificial intelligence be trying to take away our jobs as designers, as creators, writers, thinkers, brainstormers, mixers of magical stuff. Yeah. Well, guess what? I decided to walk on the wild side. I decided to take AI by the hand and say, you show me what you all about. I'm ready. I need to know my enemy if I'm going to defeat it. And I'm here to tell you, AI ain't so bad. You know, I look back to the early days. I remember being a kid of the 80s, growing up, hearing about these computers that are gonna, you press a button and it's gonna do your job for you, and scared the crap out of me. I remember hearing a news piece about, the environment and how we're not gonna have any trees and paper is a waste of trees, and how am I supposed to be drawing if there ain't no paper, How am I supposed to do this job that I wanted to do all my life? You can't draw on a computer, You got this one button mouse with like 640 by 480 resolution. You'll be lucky you can draw a decent square. That's what I was thinking. And I cried myself to sleep at night thinking, this one thing that you're kind of good at, you're not going to be able to do. Am I alone? Are there others out there that were feeling that way? But then, guess what? You embrace technologies, and we learn how to recycle, okay? And we got paper. It's made up of recycled stuff, tree fibers and what have you, fabrics. So there's your paper. But then even better, we can embrace the environments even more. And we got these Wacom pen tablet things. And the resolution on the computer screens, they keep improving. And those that said, nah, bro, nah, not me. I'm all about the paper, yo. They still have their place. They're not dead. There's still people out there be doing the paper thing. It's all good. So this is a roundabout way of coming at you with AI. Okay? So you're all worried that AI be ripping off your drawings, your illustrations. that are out there floating in the interwebs, and they be taking the credit for something that y'all already did and you didn't give them permission to leverage your stuff. And that's a valid concern. I feel you, okay? And I was worried too. Maybe I'm still a little bit worried. You know, the jury's still out. AI, he be sneaky, you know. I was reading this book about artificial intelligence called Superintelligence, and that'll mess you up, talking about letting owls up in your mouse tribe and warn you about other predators, and next thing you know, be eaten by owls. You gotta read it. It's at the beginning. It makes more sense. But back to the subject at hand. AI, artificial intelligence. Is it friend or is it foe? Is it going to take away our jobs? Are we, as creatives, going to become obsolete? You know, you got this, forget about, you know, art, still in images and mashing them together into some unique looking masterpiece. Forget about that for a second and look at this ChatGPT, OpenAI stuff. That's right, I'm trying to keep it PG up in here. ChatGPT. You can ask that thing to write you a story. Then you can say, you know what? Give me a different ending on that story. Let's switch it up. Take that story and write it as if it were in the voice of one of the kids these days, those Gen Zers, I think is what they're calling them. You know, and it'll do it. You ask it, you know, give me a marketing plan for my t-shirt business. It'll give you a plan. And some people could just like do their whole job by just typing in stuff into the ChatGPT. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, you can ask it to write you a song. I saw an example on the TikToks where someone asked it to write a song about Elon Musk in a relationship with Drake, and it whipped it out pretty quick, and the TikToker sang it with the chord progression provided by ChatGPT, and it sounded pretty dope for a quick first draft. So, yeah, what am I saying? Right now it sounds like I'm trying to feed in to this fear that there ain't no hope, you know, that AI is going to take our jobs. And maybe it will. Maybe it will. But here's how I look at it. Okay. When I know I'm using a lot of stories and examples to try to explain what's been banging around in my head. But I'll tell you, the other night, the first night of my sickness, was also the day that I tried some of these AI tools, and maybe that made me sick, okay? And I was tossing and turning, dreaming about AI, like giving it prompts and seeing what I got back and being stressed and worried and waking up and telling myself, don't be thinking about that junk. You need to get well. And this ain't helping, okay? And I kept dreaming about it. But after wrestling with this for over a year, and after facing the fear head on just over this past week and trying some of this AI stuff out, I realized that we're going to establish some rules around how these things are used, and the market is going to assign value to things. And just like furniture, okay, you get some computer generated cheap IKEA stuff that you have to put together yourself, and you thought you were getting a good deal, but you're really just giving yourself lots of headaches with something that's just going to break fairly soon. That's your AI right out of the box. Now that's not, I apologize, IKEA, I like some of your stuff. But you get them Amish folks that know how to use those hand tools and make those crazy freaking dovetail ninja joints. Japanese, infused crazy no nail joints. You can do that kind of crap. That's worth the money, and those things are going to last forever. Okay? And they're using quality stuff. And that's how I look at the human and what that handcrafted, tried and true process is all about. So that's one way to look at it. Another way is, let's look at web design, for example. Back in the early 2000s when I first got into it, using Flash, and it was all about, okay, each project, blank canvas, what are we going to do? We're going to invent some new way of navigation, and everything's going to be custom animated, and in the end it's just a piece of brochureware that doesn't do anything besides kind of look pretty and relies on this plugin, and then you're making these loading animations because it took a long time to load all those graphics and animation awesomeness. Okay, so you have that. Then I transitioned more into HTML and CSS, and I was a purist. I remember thinking, someone's hired me to create this website. I'm going to design it from scratch. It's going to be tailored to their brand, and I'm going to build it, from one initial line of code to another, and start with a div and containing div, and put divs inside and create padding, and everything was custom and one-off, and that was the process. And so I remember when we hired another designer / web developer, and he was all about leveraging the templates. All we got to do is start with this template and pop in a logo, change the colors, and a couple graphics, flow in the new text, and call it good, and make a ton of money off of it, and basically call it a custom website. And I didn't feel good about that. Here we've got these paying customers coming to us wanting a website. They're coming to professionals. If they wanted a template website, they could just go and do that themselves. This was my thinking. But then, as I looked at it from another perspective, like, how can we do both? How can, maybe we're actually doing wrong by our customers by reinventing the wheel every time a website comes in. Like if we were to start from a template that's fairly stripped down and vanilla, and that got the functionality there, and we could spend more time on custom graphics, on animated elements, on typography, layout, whatever, things that we didn't have time for in the past for most clients because they couldn't pay for it because we had to reinvent the wheel every time, then I started to come around like, yeah, I can spend more time doing what I really enjoy doing, which is, creating the content, customizing the micro interactions on these websites if I start from a place of strength. And I realize if I don't do this, I'm going to be passed up by my competitors because they're going to be able to do a website for less, and it's going to be as good or better than this website that I had to start from scratch every time. And so that's kind of how I'm looking at AI. One of the best things that like Midjourney does, for example, is you create a prompt, you write a prompt like, hey, I'm looking for motion design piece for the opening titles of a true crime series, and I want the colors to be black, red, and white, and you hit go. And what it's doing is it's scouring the web for those parameters and mocking something up fairly quick with existing things out there, and that's giving you a starting point. So the way that we currently do it, if AI isn't part of the equation, is we go to Google or Pinterest or Behance and look at other designers' stuff, get inspiration, and spend hours and hours, if not days, trying to find the right combination of inspiration that's going to trigger that aha moment that will eventually trigger you, me, as the designer, as the creative, to produce something that's going to tick the box, that's going to be awesome. And whether we like to admit it or not, everything that we call original or unique is really just a combination of things that we've experienced through our five senses, right? Primarily vision. And so don't be fooled by the misconception, in my opinion, that AI is stealing this stuff and using it in a way that no designer, no human would ever do, because really that's what we're doing, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, is we're taking things that we've seen before, that we've been inspired by, and we're creating something that is a little more unique, but guaranteed, someone else has already done something really similar and could, accuse you of ripping off their idea. That's not to say I don't think that there shouldn't be some guidelines, some best practices put around this stuff. Like if you were to, type in a prompt into Midjourney or dall-e or ChatGPT or whatever, and it spits something out, whether it's a story or a marketing plan or a 3D rendered looking illustration, if you go out and use that and claim it as your own and profit on that, then I think you're in danger of copyright infringement or plagiarism. But if instead you use it as reference, as inspiration, rather than spending 3-4 hours scouring these different portfolios of designers that you follow or stumble upon. You do a series of prompts in AI to generate images that are basically a compilation of things that you could have eventually stumbled upon yourself, and then use not one of those and say okay, I'm just gonna put some lipstick on this and call it mine, but instead take 3 or 4 or 5 or 12 of these different AI generated things, and then pull things that you like from them and create your original design piece that doesn't look like any one of those things. Then how is that any different than what we all already do? Okay? And maybe we do need to say, hey, I collaborated with Midjourney AI on this to help generate some initial ideas, but then just used it as reference for what ultimately became this finished piece. Then I see no problem with that at all. And I look at that just as I do starting from a template. Do we divulge to our clients that are asking for a custom website design that, hey, we started from this bootstrap framework and such template that got us 90% of the way there? Do we? I mean, maybe some do. But in the end, there is still a good amount of skill that goes into coming up with the right prompts, identifying when you see what it is you're looking for, that it's going to build or reinforce the brand that this project is for. And then most things, it isn't just a still image. Like in the motion design example, that's just one still frame inspiration, and now you're not relying on AI to animate the thing for you or tell the story, or not that it won't get there someday, but I just believe strongly, and I'm reassured by these points that I'm trying to make, that we shouldn't be afraid of change, and that opportunities are out there for those who are willing to look their enemy in the face and say, you don't scare me, let's do this thing, and just see what you can do. So yeah, I'm curious, what do y'all think? Am I off my rocker? Is it too late? Should I not be recording this podcast at this hour? Rest assured, I did get some sleep earlier in the day, and like I said, I've been sick for the past 3 or 4 days and got way too much sleep. And in an effort to be able to actually go to sleep, I had to get this off my chest. I had to talk it out. I had to capture it, and I had to share it with you. And I hope that I hope that something strikes a chord with you, and that maybe you'll, like me, will embrace this new paradigm shift, from the way things used to be done to the way things can be done in the future, and realize that just because something is done quickly by some new piece of technology doesn't mean that these older human tried and true paths of creating are no longer relevant. We could list a million examples. Look at the camera, right? I mean, in the 18th century and 19th century, most of the 19th century and prior, the way that someone's image was captured was via a portrait painter. Masters of the craft like Leonardo and Michelangelo, and I'm going to embarrass myself, and so on and so on. And then the camera came along and was able to perfectly reproduce an image of somebody, and yet there are still those who paint with oils and use those same techniques and build fabulous careers off of that. And there, as the camera has progressed to digital photography, there are still those who prefer film, and I don't know who they are, but I'm sure there's some. No, I do know that even these kind of gimmicky Polaroid cameras have come back in style, and I think both of my oldest daughters have purchased them and pay $40 for 30 blank Polaroid shots that they can take with this little camera, and the quality isn't there, but there's still kind of that analog appeal. What other examples can you think of? And so if we can put some rules around the use of AI in art and realize that it is a tool and it's not a replacement, and we can't call ourselves an artist, like a 3D artist, if we don't know how to use 3D tools, and all we've done is described in detail to Midjourney in a prompt what it is we want this 3D image to look like, and then we put some lipstick on it with a quick touch up in Photoshop and post it to our portfolio and say, hey, look what I did, I'm a 3D artist. I don't think that's going to fly. And that's where I think most of the concern comes from those existing artists out there who have put their stuff online, and their artwork is being stolen, if you will. What? Okay. It's late. It's real late. But if you instead look at it as idea generation, and we're not trying to get the AI to do our job for us or give us that final image that we're going to run with, and if we do, we have to be explicit in saying, hey, this is generated by AI, and this is my process. And so I am the prompt wizard, and AI and any artist whose images were used in creating this image get credit, I guess, but blank slate here. Let's just hammer it home. if you leverage the AI to cut down your time searching for that inspiration, and you're able to learn the techniques that come from practice in writing these prompts, similar to the skill that it is to know how to search for things on Google or YouTube to get those answers. You have to know a certain amount about what it is you're looking to learn how to do in order to get the right website to pop up in your search or the right YouTube video. It's the same thing with AI. It's just a super fancy search engine that happens to have the ability to take a quick stab at compiling, or visualizing what it is that you described, and then you use that along with maybe a dozen other examples generated by AI to create something unique. I look at that as building on the shoulders of giants, not reinventing the wheel, just because at one time for design inspiration we would flip through 100 different magazines and clip out the pieces that inspire us to create this unique design, and then it graduated to Google and Pinterest and Behance, digital searches. This is just the next evolution, in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, some powerful stuff, especially when we talking about ChatGPT and it's doing some crazy stuff. I mean, yeah, you can do some math problems in Google search and get the answers. ChatGPT is that on steroids for sure. So there it is. There's my brain dump, my seemingly never-ending ramblings on AI and whether or not it is friend or foe. And my opinion is AI can be your friend. Let it be your friend. Even if you're going into it with keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That works too. Until next time, my friends, keep creating. Create or die.